Hey, welcome back to my shop. Whether you're new to woodworking and looking to up your game, or maybe you're making a bunch of cabinetry and you're looking for a faster and more professional way to make your drawer boxes, this Porter Cable Dovetail Jig might just be your cheat code. Today we're going to take a look at how to make half-blind dovetails. Half-blind dovetails are probably the most common joint you're going to see in commercial drawer making, and there's a reason for that. Aside from it being a very professional looking joint, it's actually surprisingly fast to make. And this Porter Cable Dovetail Jig really makes it easy. So this video, it's all going to be about how to make a drawer and specifically how to use this Porter Cable Dovetail Jig to make a half-blind dovetail. And before we get into the video, I'm going to ask ahead of time, if you enjoy the video at all, if you like it, if you learned something, go ahead and please hit that like and subscribe button. And really, like I always say, even if you don't, please like and subscribe. Now let's get right into the build.
I do intend this video to be more about making a drawer box and making blind dovetails, so we'll get through this part pretty quickly. I'm just planing down all the material I'll be using for the drawers. I went with curly maple because it's got a really pretty grain structure, and I'm going to be planing these down to about 3/4 of an inch, leaving them a little thick for sanding. Then I'll take them over the joiner and straighten one edge before I rip them down on the table saw. Next we're over to the table saw to rip all the pieces down at the same time so they're all the exact same width. Next I'll use the crosscut sled on my table saw to cut all my pieces to length. The math when making a blind dovetail box is really easy. Your front and back pieces, which determine your width, are just going to be the exact width of your box. The side pieces that determine the depth of your box will just be the depth of your box minus the thickness of one of your pieces of material. And then you'll need to sand all your pieces before you start cutting dovetails. Sanding your pieces will change your thickness, and if you do that after you cut the blind dovetails, your dovetail joints will be loose. Also, it's a lot easier to sand now than after the box is all assembled. You'll also want a couple of scrap pieces for setup that you need to have sanded to the exact same thickness as the material you'll be using. And I even do all my finish sanding before I start cutting my dovetails. Like I said, this is much easier to do now rather than after the box is assembled, and changing the thickness after you cut the dovetails will mess up all of your dovetail joints.
Now I'm ready to set up this Porter Cable Dovetail Jig to make my blind dovetails. For the setup, we're going to be using some scrap wood. This scrap wood must be the exact same thickness as the material that we're going to be using. Also, we have to make sure that these cuts are all perfectly square. Those two things are very crucial in setting up this jig properly. Now I'll bring you in closer so you can see exactly how to set it up. So first thing we're going to do is adjust this plate. We're going to slide two pieces in. Right about flush with the front of the jig is good. Now we want this plate to sit down tight on these pieces, and we need it to sit square. That's why we're using two pieces. We can't have it tilted. We're going to go ahead and lock these in with the cam lock. And you can adjust the tension on those with these two knobs here. You want to make sure those are good and tight because you don't want anything moving around when you're making your cuts. So we'll loosen these two knobs on the front. These allow this plate to move up and down. And we want them to sit tight on here, but not so tight we can't get our pieces in and out, but we can't have any play. So we're just going to hold down a little bit of pressure and tighten these knobs. Now we should see that there's no play, but we can still slide our pieces in and out. Next up, we want to align this plate in and out. To do that, we're going to first start by sliding a couple pieces in on the front of the jig. And we want these out of the way. And these to go right up tight to the bottom of our plate. Go ahead and lock those in. And then we can lock these in right up tight to it.
Notice this groove on the aluminum template. We want that to line up with the joint of the two boards. You can see that mine's off just a little bit, and I'm going to need to move mine in.
Well, that adjustment is made with these brass knobs you can adjust to allow the plate to move forward and backwards. Each knob can be adjusted individually so you get your plate exactly where you want it to be. Now that the plate is aligned with that joint, we're ready for the next step. The next adjustment we're going to make is this stop right here. This is going to control where our pieces sit in this jig. What's important here is that the board is centered and you have equal spacing from the lugs on each side. And then this is why we wanted this to be a good square cut. It needs to be up tight to the plate so that we can set this stop against this board and we know it's going to be sitting square. If that stop is not square, you can see how that would affect the position of the top board, and then your cuts won't line up. Now this metal stop on top here is going to give us the proper offset. We can lock our piece in place, and that'll be ready to cut. For my cuts, I'm going to be using this Porter Cable plunge router. You don't have to use a plunge router by any means, it's just what's convenient for me today. We'll be using the supplied dovetail bit that comes with the Porter Cable Jig, as well as the guide bushing that attaches to the router plate. For this to all work properly, your router plate needs to be perfectly centered with your router bit. So if you don't have one of these centering cones, pick one up. Here's how it works. So you just slide this down into your collet. Now you can loosen the screws on your router plate, bring this up, and use that cone to perfectly align your router plate with your router bit. This is going to prevent any of your cuts from getting offset. If you have the router turned one way and then maybe next time you make a cut the other direction, they'll all still be perfectly centered.
On the left side of the Porter Cable Jig, there's this adjustment knob. This is used for setting the depth of your router. Once you've got it set, you can use it to quickly set up for the next time. What you're aiming for is 50% of the thickness of your material. A little thinner or a little thicker will slightly affect how tight the joint is. So try to get it right at that 50% of the thickness. Now that it's time to make a cut, you just want to make sure your first pass goes from right to left. That way you prevent tear out. Obviously this is sped up for time. Do not cut this fast. Take your time and make nice cuts.
Well, let's see how they fit. Well, you'd be hard pressed to get a better fit. Flushes up nicely. The only thing I'm not happy with is the thin edge it leaves on this one end. Really the fix for that is I'm going to have to narrow my boards up maybe 1/8 of an inch. All right, next set of test cuts. I've got these two boards that I narrowed them down 1/8 inch. I recentered the jig. Now that they're narrowed down, the center changes. And we'll try this out. I'm going to again be working from right to left, and then I'll come back the other direction and clean up anything I might have missed.
With that 1/8 inch ripped off of them, the fit's of course going to be the same, but now I don't have that weird little edge. I'm much happier with this width, so I'm going to rip down all my drawer boxes to this width, and then I'll start batching them out. Before I start making cuts, I want to make sure I have everything orientated properly. You'll notice that the boards sat this direction in the jig, but then they go together in the opposite direction, which means the inside faces out. So before I do anything, I'm going to orientate my pieces how I want to see them, and then I'm going to put a little piece of tape on the inside so that I know which side is going to be facing out on my jig. The other thing to pay attention to is how the pieces need to be orientated in the jig. If you notice the piece that cuts the pins versus the piece that cuts the grooves, the pins need to be your side pieces, which means these are going to hang vertically in the jig, whereas your front and back pieces will be in the top of the jig. Now I can start batching out my drawers. Obviously there was some time in the setup, but once the setup is done, this is a really fast and efficient way to make drawer boxes. And once you've done this a couple of times, the setup goes really fast. Before my next step, which is going to be cutting a dado in the bottom of the pieces, this will accept the drawer bottom. I'll arrange all my pieces how they're going to be put together, and then I want to identify which is the top and outside so that I orientate all my pieces the same as I make the cut. I do this by setting a piece of green tape on the edge and rolling it over the front. It's very common to use 1/4 inch material for your drawer bottom, although at this point I had the bright idea I was going to use some 1/2 inch material with some white laminate, which later turns out to be a big flop. However, back to the cuts. When making this dado, as long as the dado is less than the depth of those pins, your two pieces with the pins you can cut straight through. From one end to the other, you don't have to stop short. For my front and back pieces with the grooves, you can't cut straight through those or you'll see the grooves stick out. So here's what I did. I marked the front and back of my blade, measured in about a 1/2 inch, so that I could start and stop my cuts accordingly. I do realize this is not the safest operation, and if you want to jump in the comments and berate me for not doing it safely, go ahead, that's fine. I'm just showing you what I did. I make a plunge cut at the front of my board, slide the board through, of course using the push stick, and then of course I do let the blade come to a complete stop before I remove my piece. That does leave a little rounded end that needs to be cleaned up, and I'll do that with my router. I'll be using a 1/2 inch straight bit to finish up that cut. I'm also going to clamp blocks to each end of my fence. This is going to prevent me from accidentally cutting too far and ruining my workpiece. You might be asking yourself, why not just make the entire cut with the router? And realistically you can, that is fine. I chose not to because maple is a pretty hard wood, and making a 1/2 inch dado through this maple I think is going to be a lot of work for the router. That's why I did the bulk of the work with the table saw. This is a piece of 1/2 inch MDF that I put some white countertop laminate on. I thought this might be a really neat idea because this project does have some white laminate work mixed in with the cabinetry. But what actually happened is I started to assemble a drawer and I hated it. So I had to scrap this idea and come up with something else. And unfortunately, I didn't make the decision to scrap that idea until after I had the 1/2 inch dado cut in all my pieces. So I ended up going with 3/4 inch maple, which is definitely overkill for a drawer bottom, but hey, it's going to be strong and it'll look good. Using 3/4 inch plywood just means I had to cut a 1/4 inch rabbet around the perimeter of the plywood so that it could fit into that 1/2 inch dado. That's a really easy cut to make with the router. Unfortunately, the hard part is hitting record when doing it, so I don't have any of that footage. I'll do all my finish sanding before I start assembling any pieces. Again, it's easier to sand now than when the box is put together. Just make sure you go really light and easy with this. I'm using 320 grit sandpaper and just going to make one light pass. With a veneer, all you can really hope for is that you make it feel a little smoother, get rid of some of the fuzzies, but it does not take much to over sand right through the veneer, so be careful. Things I like to do before I start gluing up. First off, I'm going to dry fit all my pieces. I want to make sure everything fits right and I don't have any mistakes before I start applying glue. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know this already. I like to wrap my joints with green tape before I glue up. This makes the cleanup so much easier. I promise if you try it, you'll never stop doing it. Now it's time to glue up the drawer box. Obviously I have this sped way up because it takes quite a long time and who really wants to watch all that? I'm going to let you in on a little secret about me. I hate gluing up drawer boxes. Of all the things I do in my shop, this is probably the thing I hate the most. I don't really have an explanation for it, but I just hate it. Anyways, so we're going to apply glue only to the joints, not to the panel. We want the panel to free float. Be sure to use clamping blocks so you don't mar up your wood. and use a square to make sure it's square. If it's not square, put a clamp on it diagonally and pull it into square. Clean up all the glue as it oozes out, and clean up the green tape and remove the green tape before the glue dries. The tape makes cleanup easy, but not if you allow the glue to dry and glue the tape right to the wood. I pull my clamps the next day, and then just some light sanding to get any residual glue that might be left behind. I just use a sanding block and some sandpaper to break the edges. You could use a router and make some rounder edges if you like. Really, it's whatever your preference is. Next up, I'm going to apply the finish. I like to use conversion varnish. Conversion varnish is a high build product that dries really fast. I can do multiple coats in a day, and it's very durable. I actually made an entire video about conversion varnish. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Conversion varnish might just be your next favorite finish. So these require just a light hand sanding in between coats. I use 320, sometimes 400 grit sandpaper. Using a tack cloth, we'll wipe them down to make sure they're good and clean before the next coat. For my final coat, I'm only going to have 2 drawer boxes in my spray booth at any given time. I've found that if you have too many workpieces in the spray booth, you end up with overspray that lands on all of your other pieces, leaving kind of a rough sandpapery-like texture, so it's better to have minimal pieces in the spray booth for that final coat. And some final tips I'll leave you. You can use whatever kind of hardware you like. I like to use the side mount full extension drawer slides with the soft close. Just make sure that when you pre-drill the holes for your screws, you apply tape or some sort of way to mark the drill bit so you don't drill too deep. And drawer slides do tend to come with a set of screws for installation. However, I am convinced that those screws are made out of a combination of butter and silver paint. They break all the time and I would not use them. Go to the hardware store and pick yourself up some decent screws.
Well, thanks for watching the video all the way till the end. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you can see that making a half blind dovetail really isn't intimidating. It's really not that hard. Just pick yourself up one of these Porter Cable Dovetail Jigs. I'll leave a link in the description below that goes to this on Amazon. It is an affiliate link, which means if you click on the link and you purchase the product, I do make a small commission from that. But to be clear, I am not sponsored by anybody. Everything I do in my shop is 100% paid for by me. These are just things that I use, that I enjoy, and I trust. So pick one up if you like, and stay tuned for the next video.